using them now anyway but that's as you get more advanced. You know, you start to get I'm just as obsessed with sanitation and everything else now for mead than I was for beer anyway. So at the end, it doesn't matter. But I always tell somebody, make a traditional or a jome or something like that. That's very, you know, get the basics down first. And then go from there and do your research, you know, because the sanitation, a lot of people don't understand the sanitation. They think that the brew day is the day that you start brewing. You know, you need to prepare at least 2 or 3 days before. Make sure you have everything you need. Make sure you used your Google and you know that you have whatever it is you're going to need. Whether you're making a basic jome, which really doesn't need anything special, you can go to the supermarket and get everything pretty much. Or you know, if you're making your first traditional mead, make sure you have the specialized yeast. Make sure you have all your equipment ready, sanitized, ready to go. And a lot of that stuff you really want to get doing it maybe the day before, or you know, make sure at least you have, like when I have a fermentation day, I'm at least 2 days before washing, sanitizing, making sure everything's ready, and go from there. You know, it's a lot of the things that we take for granted. Especially if you've been doing it for a long time, it's important to tell the guys who are just starting out to like, you know, pay attention to these things. You know, like even the water. A lot of people don't think of that. They go there to the tap and they just get the tap water. You know, maybe you should think about that and make sure if you're going to make a 5-gallon batch, get 5 gallons of spring water and make sure you have it. You know, because it's happened to me where I'm sitting there with a half-gallon container, taking an hour to you know, on my refrigerator to get the filtered water, at least because I forgot to buy spring water. You know. But it's things like that I think are important when you're first starting out. Like you said, the basics are the actual basics. You know, equipment. What kind of sanitizer are you going to use? You know, Star San, Ida4, which one? Do you know where to get it? Did you get it? Mm-hmm. You know, stuff like that. I don't know. Anybody else?
I like the did you get it, because how many people come on and go, okay, so I have bleach.
Right.
And I've seen that, you know, and it's like, and it's not that it's a bad thing necessarily, but it just illustrates the fact that I guess I'm not doing my job at saying, you know, this is what you have to have ahead of time. And so we definitely need to rewrite that newbie guide to expand it. And you know, so that's definitely, it's going to be a collaborative project. We've already talked about this offline. So, so that's going to happen. The newbie guide is going to get a major overhaul. I mean, when it got originally written, it was amazing and nobody had done anything like that. But it's time to update.
It's getting a little dated,
It's 10 years old, it's time to update that puppy and expand it out. So, but I mean, it's amazing how many people come in and say, okay, I have honey, now what?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you were saying that there are 2 kinds of people who come to making mead. I found that there's 3. There's the ones who've never fermented anything, there's the ones who've made beer, and then there are those of us who cut our teeth making wine.
And you guys are the smaller ones, but
Yeah, but I mean, it's interesting because once you've been sitting back and looking at posts from people, you can tell if they've brewed before, and usually by the way they use different words, you can tell whether they got their start in beer or wine.
Sure.
You know, exactly. Yeah, if they say wort, you know they know beer, and you don't have to tell them anything about sanitation.
Right.
But you know, if I got my start with wine,
they don't know patience.
Patience? Nonsense.
Well, that's the thing.
Why do we need patience?
From the perspective of a winemaker, you know, there's a lot of really good wine recipes out there, and a lot of them just say you can substitute honey instead. But what they don't tell you in those recipes is that honey has its own acidity. So, you know, when you're coming at it from the perspective of a winemaker, a lot of research has been done on grape wine. So a lot of the fruit wine recipes try to attain similar sugar, acidity, tannin, nutrient levels to grape must. So what they do in the recipes is they ask you to add acid blend or lemon juice prior to fermentation. If you're using honey, don't. Because honey's got its own acidity and it'll mess with your pH and it'll take off your yeasties.
Yeah, which is to say, guys, if you're out there doing a new recipe, don't come after you've already dumped a whole bunch of acids and whatnot into your mead and go, well, I added 3 teaspoons of malic acid. Why is it doing this? Yeah, no. Come beforehand and show us your recipe so that we can help you to figure out whether you even need that. Sometimes you do. It depends on what you're doing, but
yeah, but normally you need it for taste. You don't need the wine. You don't need your must to be acidic because it's already going to be acidic. Because chances are you're adding fruit, which is acidic, and you're adding honey, which has its own acidity. And then when you add the yeast, they make even more acidity when they do their thing.
Yeah.
But
jump in. You're welcome. You're here. We want you here.
Yeah, I personally got my start with winemaking, and the very first thing I did was a 5-gallon wine kit with a brand new, winemaker starter kit. And that had pretty much all the stuff I needed in order to get something decent into a bottle. And, I recommend that as a good start. And anytime anybody asks me what equipment they need, pretty much the list of stuff on the beginner wine kit is what I will tell them. Because you can get along without pretty much all the rest of the stuff that I also use. But that stuff's pretty basic, and that's what you want.
Yeah, maybe coming at it from a wine perspective is a little bit easier because I had to unlearn a lot of stuff after 20 years of making beer.
Like what?
When I started making mead. Well, like being obsessive about the sanitation. The main thing I had to unlearn was it's not going to be ready in a month.
Well, unless you're making a bomb, in which case, yeah.
Yeah, but even a bomb, I have a year-old bomb now, and it's awesome, And compared to what it was, which was a heck of a lot better than anything like a D47 mead or something like that, but. It's good. It's drinkable, but drinkable means you're not, compared to even just 3 or 4 months down the road, it gets so much better, But so a bomb is a 1-month mead, but it's not a 1-month mead.
Yeah.
Well, just like a JAO is a 2-month mead, but it's not. I mean, I've actually still got a bottle of the very first one of those I ever made, bottled, and I'm probably gonna open that when I start a meadery.
I've got some bottles of a Pyment I made ages almost 10 years ago, and it I was Pete and I were he helped me with the back end fermentation management and stuff like that. So he's like, okay, add this. All right, now stir. Now add that. So he kind of rode me. He kind of rode me hard, and and basically forced me, because I was like, no, we just pitch and wait. I'm a lazy butt. I don't want to be messing with this. I want to put the top on and forget about it till it's time to drink it. And he's like, you are an idiot. You're not going to, so. Yeah, Pete's pretty frank with me.
That was the other thing. The other thing that was hard to do was to open that fermenter.
Oh, yeah, the beer maker, totally.
Day.
Well, that goes back to that whole rabid sanitation thing from beer making, right?
Don't even breathe in the general direction of your bucket. Yeah, I totally understand.
If your dog comes in the kitchen when you're brewing, oh no.
Exactly.
Whereas I'm sure everybody by now has heard of the one. There's a thread somewhere. If you search the word ferret, someone had his ferrets take a roll through his must once, and they came out fine.
Ferret mead.
Ferret mead.
Oh, that's so funny. My dogs I know there was at least 1 or 2 times when I would be stirring or something, and one of my dogs would run in and look in, like, what you doing, Mom? Is there food? And it would be like, get away. But another thing that I think that you probably didn't, that we're probably happy to unlearn, was the whole don't turn your back on the boil.
Oh gosh, yeah.
I did that one time. We were making beer. Literally, turn around, open the fridge, turn back, and it was all over the top of the stove. It was like, are you kidding me? They weren't kidding me.
Yeah. And the awesome part is no boil. Come on.
Exactly.
I hated boiling.
No boiling. Yeah, I don't even heat anymore unless it's so caramelized or so crystallized that I can't get it out of the jar, in which case I'm like scraping it out and into a pot with some water just enough to melt it so I can pour
honestly,
it. Honestly,
I find it easier to measure when it's solidified.
Well,
it's so much easier to work. It's not messy and sticky and stringy and you don't have to wipe up after it.
I don't know. I get chunks and bits all over the place and end up having just like this huge sticky mess, so I guess it depends. That and I've destroyed I don't know how many steel spoons that we had because the stuff is so stiff when it's crystallized.
Oh, yeah. I use a set of metal measuring cups.
Oh, okay. Yeah, how do you get it? I mean, all the jars I've got, my gallon jugs all got those narrow necks. I'd end up with honey up to my elbows if I did that.
Yeah, see, I get it in buckets, so.
Yeah, well, I have some in buckets, but I buy, for specialty honeys, especially the more expensive ones, I don't
That's
buy
fair.
5-gallon pails. Yeah.
That's fair. Yeah, actually,
we're really lucky out here with the honey. Very lucky. I get it from a local beekeeper. And that's the other thing. Like the beer sanitation would go nuts. I now when I make a batch, there's bees in there. There's wax. There's all sorts of stuff. I just get it from that 5-gallon bucket and pour it in there. And who cares?
The fermentation will take care of it.
Oh yeah.
See how rapidly he leaves his beer habits behind him.
Until he makes beer.
Yeah, right.
No, that's not going to happen again. Why should I make beer? I go to the store and there's 50,000 beers on the shelf.
They've made all the beers already. Yeah, why do we need to make them?
Exactly.
They have
it's actually what
JD
JD said.
Meads. Yeah, he did say that. JD used to say that a lot.
Why should I make beer? There's so much good stuff out there. Mead now, on the other hand, there's not a lot that's easy to get to.
And I love the fact that it's the Wild Wild West. Somebody was telling me last week that we have literally a wide, maybe it was you and I when we were talking, AJ, but it's a wide open frontier. We can do anything we want. There are no rules.
Well, except when there are.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's fermentation rules and stuff like that, but what I'm saying is as to what you can put in there.
Oh, yeah.
It's almost unlimited. Not completely, because there are just some things that don't ferment well, or that you don't want to try, but the vast majority of things and combinations are fully possible. They may not make great mead, but you can try.
Yeah, and that's when you were talking about water earlier. That's one of the things that's been on my to-brew list for friggin' ever, is try my mother's well water, try the well water at the farm where I used to work, try city water, try distilled water, and try spring water, and do the same bat with the same honey and the same yeast, and do a gallon of each, and see how it comes out, how they differ, what they taste like. That's the kind of experimenting that is very valuable when you're trying to figure out what affects what.
Yeah. I've been doing this, I guess, coming out up on maybe 4 or 5 years now. I have yet to make anything that's a fruit mead. I'm still trying to perfect the traditional. And that's what I've been doing. Just different honeys, different yeasts, different water, different types of nutrient additions, all that kind of stuff. And it's a great tool, and that's where the patience comes in. It's 4 years and I'm still not happy with my traditional. You know what I mean? But I don't know that the traditional I made 3 years ago isn't going to be the one that I want in 5 years. Which brings me to my other basic: keep records.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
I can't tell you how many times I've had people are emailing me going, so I made this strawberry mel, and I don't know why it tastes like ass, and it's like,
what did you do?
I don't know. Well, I just threw some strawberries, and somebody I'm like, you don't have a recipe? Well, I kind of do, and what about your notes? Well, I didn't really take notes. I'm like, then we can't talk.
Try it again, keep notes, and if it happens again, then we can help you.
I will email them back and go, so you need to send me your complete recipe and all your notes, and then in parentheses say, you did take notes, right?
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, we get a lot of that. I see that a lot on GotMead, and they just don't take notes. It's like, seriously? I mean, even when I was a noob, like a total wet behind the ears noob making my first batch, I wrote down, like, 3 p.m. day 2.
That's why I took